Hello everybody, my name is Putu Kanno, and today me and my group is going to present to you about migration. So first, what is migration? Migration is the temporary or permanent movement of people from one place to another. So it could be inside a country like local migrations or between different countries. There are many types of international migration with different degrees of relevance to the issue of international production. Beth, Golden, and Maynard divided international migration into 9 different types. These are all of the types. The first is high-skilled migration, that is divided into two, which is a permanent and temporary high-skilled migration. Countries themselves define highly skilled immigrants using a range of different types of visas or a visas categories. And they look at defining skilled workers by their maybe by their salary levels, and in some country they define skilled workers by their specific talents or merits that they give to the country. So permanent high skilled migration, as you can hear from the name permanent, it involves a permanent residence of somebody in a certain place. They often enjoy easier access to an entry visa or resident permit than the lower skilled one. High skilled migrants are often not seen as migrants but usually seen as a mobile people. So that's why high-skilled migrants is often at the urging of hiring corporations such as multinational enterprises or MNEs. So for temporary high-skilled migration, they refers to any individual that admitted on the basis of professional educations, skills, equivalent level of experience, and specialized knowledge in a given field. For temporary low-skilled migration, low-skilled can refer to the people with fewer formal qualifications, people working in jobs that do not really require such qualifications, or work are people that are usually working in low-wage positions, such as workers in the areas of manual labor, construction, domestic service, and nursing. Family migration. Family migration is the term used to categorize the migration of people who migrate due to new or established family ties. For example, reunification with the family members who migrated earlier, or marriage between an immigrant and the citizen of the country, or even marriage between an immigrant and a foreigner living abroad, and international adoption is included in family migration too. Next is co-ethnic and national priority migration. This exists in some countries, and it involves granting permanent residence based on ethnic backgrounds, religious affiliations, and national origin. And for asylum seekers, is someone who identifies themselves as a refugee but whose claim for international protection that has not yet been assessed by the competent governing authority. And for refugees is people who have fled war, violence, conflict, or any persecutions and have crossed the international border to find some safety in another country. And undocumented migration includes any migration that is not regulated or not documented by the nation state, and this may include anyone residing in a nation without a legal status. For visa free migration, This involves the free movement of both labor and capital. As from the name visa free, it's no visa needed. The European Union is the prime example of visa free migration. So, all of these nine types of migration are important from political, human rights, and public policy perspectives, but not all of them are relevant to international production. Next is migration decisions. We need to know what motivates the migrants in their decision making. These are some factors that influence decision making process of the migrants. There's relative wages, youth population growth, financial resources, educational levels, and migrant networks. We use Morocco and European Union as an example. Relative wages. One of the factors that influence migration is relative wages, particularly relative unskilled wages. We measure the wages in the EU or European Union and M for Morocco, wage in the EU to that in Morocco as RW equals to W EU divided by WM. The larger is this relative wage measure, the greater the number of Moroccans who would like to emigrate to the European Union. As the RW increases, as the RW increases or decreases, there's a movement along going up or going down an emigration supply or the ES, as we call it ES in this curve. So for example, the relative wage from RW1 to RW2 will increase the desired emigration from E1 to the E2. So it will move upwards. Next is youth population growth. Population growth in Morocco will increase the number of individuals who are considering emigrating from Morocco to the EU. So the important thing here is growth of the youth population. The youngsters are more prone to be risk takers and because of net benefits of migration can take a long time to accrue to the individual migrant. The young are more likely to have the years ahead of them for net benefits to become positive. The age structure can therefore influence the migration decision. An increase in youth population will have the effect of shifting the ES curve in this figure to the right. Financial resources. So the cost of emigration can be so expensive and it not only includes direct cost from traveling from one country to another, but also all of the opportunity cost of leaving the home country with their family and friends and the risks involved in settling in the new country they migrate to. And because of these factors, there is a tendency of the effective ES curve to move to the right as the per capita income or the GDP will rises from low to middle income levels and improves the ability of potential migrants to finance the move. For educational levels, an increase in educational levels in Morocco will have the effect of increasing the aspiration of Moroccans and making them more aware of economic and social possibilities abroad. Increased educational also allows Moroccans to better absorb and process information flows from the EU in order to assess opportunities there. The increased educational levels have the effect of shifting the ES curve to the right. Migrant networks. The potential in Morocco needs to know something about the economic or social environment in the EU before moving there, right? So, as a migrant networks develop, the quality information flows increase and the ES curve again will shift to the right. So from all of these decisions, the relative wages is included as a movement along factor, and the rest of youth population growth, financial resources, and educational levels and migrant networks are included as a shift factor. Historical evidence suggests that the shift of the ES curve in the previous in this previous curve can be more significant than movement along factor. So these so the historical evidence suggests these types of migration decisions. So these four factors can work together as origin countries develop. So the increase in GDP per capita, youth population, and educational levels shifts the ES curve to the right, and as the first Moroccan migrants succeed in establishing life in the European Union, they they get the quality information flows increase and the ES curve will shift even further to the right. And all of those four shift factors in one time can lead to a phenomenon known as a migration hump. This figure shows that as GDP per capita increases from low to medium levels, emigration will increase. And as the GDP per capita increases further from the medium to high, economic opportunities will expand in Morocco relative to the European Union. But youth population begins to shrink in Morocco and but emigration will decrease from the medium to high. So next is going to be explained by my friend.
Hello, I'm Daniel, and I'm going to be explaining about high skilled migration and low skilled migration in this migration chapter. So, all right, so the first thing we're going to talk about is the high skilled migration or HSM. So there are facts about this high skilled migration. The first one is that the increase in demand for HSM appears to be related to skill based technological change in high income destination countries, that is related to the information and communication technology or ICT advances. So basically, this high skilled migration or HSM is related to how people want to seek higher standards of living and work um, compared to their own home country. So they seek to find other countries to work in. So, and then we have some theories or some suggestions. From the first one is from Bay Bayor. I don't know if I pronounce it right, and Kanze from 2004. They suggest that the type of firms that hire HSM tend to be larger firms that are more internationalized via foreign ownership and exports. While the Golden and Reinert on 2007, today's skilled migrants are not typical of the communities they leave behind, as they often have been trained at substantial cost to the taxpayers of source countries with the expectation that they would serve their communities. So this can be referred to as brain drain. So, what is brain drain? Brain drain refers to the loss of human capital in low income source countries due to the migration of citizens to foreign destination countries. So, for example, most of Indonesian employees move to the US to find a higher standards of jobs or standards of living. Um, Therefore, Indonesia loses most of its employees. It doesn't help it doesn't help the Indonesian economy. So, and then we have the return migration, which means move back to home countries transfers, and then they when the employees move back from the destination country to the home country, they bring back or they transfer technology and entrepreneurial skills from the destination country that they have learned from to their home country. So, for example, Indonesian employees move back from the US to Indonesia, bringing the knowledge, bringing the skills and the experiences back to Indonesia, so Indonesia may learn from the US. So, brain drain can evolve into brain circulation, in which expatriates from developing countries return either temporarily or permanently. So these return migrants can even have subsequent positive effect on the inflows of FDI by enhancing the local advantages by return migration or moving back to the home country. Right, moving on to the low skilled migration or LSM. And low skilled itself means people with few formal qualifications or people working in jobs that do not require such qualifications, people working in low wage positions regardless of their own educational background. So this is just a simple terms of low skilled. So there's actually two sides of LSM, the first one being supply side and the second one being demand side. So the supply side, we can conclude or learn from the migration decision just roughly from the previous presenter. So I'm just going to move on to the demand side. Right, moving on to the demand side, there's actually two important characteristics or component of the demand side of LSM. The first one relates to demographic trends in some destination countries. So it relates to countries experiencing or about to experience declines in their population as fertility rates are below replacement levels. So it means that the number of babies born is far lower than the number of old people or seniors on that country. So there's no replacements for the old generation. So it is also known as birth dearth. Because of this, countries that experience this birth dearth, the increase of demand it will increase for migrants. So the second one refers to as productivity resistant, low skill, hardcore, non-tradable services. So some types of services are resistant to productivity growth. For example, if we see in Indonesia, it is difficult to increase the productivity of haircuts. For example, you can see the image on the right hand side. So the persistence of these kinds of services in the structures of modern economies, as well as the non-tradable nature, ensures that there will always be increasing demand for migrants to perform these jobs. So thus, LSM or low-skilled migration, it is an important component of modern world economy. And LSM has therefore become a key feature of many important parts of the world economy. So, yeah. Okay, so I think that's all for my presentation. Thank you very much for listening.
Hello everyone, I'm Valerie and I will explain about remittances. Remittances are funds transferred from migrants to their home country. And there are two types of remittance. The first one, outward remittance. It is when migrants send money to their home country and the process referred to outward remittance. And the second one, inward remittance. It is the process of receiving this money by the migrant's family and it is called inward remittance. So, remittance involved in transfer to the origin household and migrant savings in the home country, also community-based transfer. It is difficult to track how remittance funds are spent because they are private transfer. Moving on the next slide, here you can see the data from World Bank about remittance over the year. So, from this data, remittance flows have increased dramatically since the middle of 1990s. It is also clear that most of the increase in remittance has been to middle-income countries, and in some countries, remittance inflows now exceed FDI inflows. And moreover, remittance to the developing or low to middle income country in the world were about $328 billion. This was more than double the amount of official development assistance or ODA. So based on these flows, we can see the positive impacts. The first one, migrant workers between the US and Mexico have helped channel remittance flows to micro-enterprise development in Mexico. Also, migrants act as a risk management strategy for poor households in developing countries and increase the food security of their own country and enables countries to import medicines and other technology. Migration policy. In most cases, the policy locus of international migration policy is the nation state based on the principle of sovereignty. And as you can see here, there is GATS Mode 4. It is one of the policy. It involves cross-border trade, movement of consumers, foreign direct investment or FDI, and movement of natural persons. GATS Mode 4 refers to the presence of person of one WTO member in the territory of another or for the purpose of providing a service. It doesn't concern persons seeking access to the employment market in the host member, nor does it affect measures regarding citizenship, residence, or employment on a permanent basis. Furthermore, Pritchett stated that, given political realities, migration policy advances can be achieved bilaterally. Besides, it doesn't rule out the pursuit of limited basic principles at the multilateral level. For example, the IOM oversees an international dialogue on migration that it describes as an opportunity for governments, intergovernmental and non-governmental organizations, and other stakeholders to discuss migration policy issues in order to explore and study policy issues of common interest and cooperate in addressing them. This policy can move forward at both the bilateral and multilateral levels. Finally, we can conclude that migration is an important component of globalization in general and international production in particular. Economic migration considered here includes both low-skilled and high-skilled varieties and has significant influence on global patterns of international production. It also has development implications, positive in the case of remittance and negative in the case of brain drain.